Thank you, thank you. Welcome to Brooklyn Borough Hall. My name is Eric Adams. I am the Brooklyn Borough President, and I am extremely excited about this announcement. Brooklyn has definitely gotten in touch with its foodie and nightlife experience, and it is growing so fast that it was imperative that we come together and ensure that there's a smooth transition into where we were and into where we are going, and no one personifies that more than my good friend David. David Rosen is the owner-operator of The Woods, a bar and restaurant in Williamsburg. And we have met while I was campaigning, and I sought his advice on many topics around nightlife and how do we ensure that we embrace the growth and that this can be a destination for many people who would like to experience Brooklyn. One of the most important parts of that experience is the nightlife opportunities. We're also joined by some good friends here. Jackie Rosenthal of Pop Gun presents a live music venue in Williamsburg, and my good friend Jamie of Output. If you haven't been there, one of the hottest clubs not only in Brooklyn but in the city. That he's with us as well, and other friends that believe this important launch of the Brooklyn Nightlife and Restaurant Coalition, a group whose mission will be to improve relations and dialogue between industry stakeholders, community members, and city agencies. When you look at it, small business is clearly the backbone of our economy. One of the fastest growing small businesses in Brooklyn is our hospitality sector. My goal is to examine the 56 million tourists that visit New York each year. Only 11 to 12 million come to Brooklyn. We want to change that. And one way to encourage people to come over and visit Brooklyn is to have a very live and thriving hospitality sector, and that's our goal. According to New York State Comptroller DiNapoli, 2008 and 2012, the hospitality sector expanded twice as fast as the rest of the city, and of these jobs, 85% were in restaurants and bars. And what is also important about our restaurants and bars, they are a great opportunity for the immigrant population as well as those who are first time entering the job market. If we did not have a massive restaurant and bar industry, you will have an increase in so many areas of unemployment, and our restaurant and bars and our entertainment industry really allows people to have an introduction to employment as well as being in a safe atmosphere. The nightlife industry generates an estimated $9.7 billion in economic activity, $2.6 billion in earnings, which are primarily in wages, and 95,000 jobs in New York City. That is an astonishing number. The industry accounts for 6% of total jobs in Brooklyn. But we all know with growth comes growing pains, and the goal is to alleviate those pains, and that's the purpose of this coalition, is to ensure this expanded industry does so responsibly and coordinates effectively with surrounding communities. Under David's leadership, we will organize the borough restaurants and bar community to make sure our businesses are talking to each other and coordinating and sharing goods. We're also going to encourage the restaurant and bar industry to strengthen ties with their local communities. Far too often, there's unnecessary friction, and it's all about a dialogue, and it's all about a conversation. We are looking to have David assist us in improving relationship between the industry and the city agencies. We can't continue the culture of taxation through citation. So many of our bars and restaurants and local businesses have had an adversary relationship with city government. That is not the energy we want. Government has no business being in your business, and we want to find ways to create a symbiotic relationship with good synergy and good energy. David and his team will be tasked with expanding this core group of industry leaders to include ownership members, that's including restaurants and bar owners, city class members, including representatives from relevant city agencies and trade associations and members. Brooklyn growth must include everyone. Our number one goal here in Borough Hall is how do we take the popularity of our brand and turn it into prosperity? And the way to do that is for people to come to this borough in a very safe atmosphere where we want to raise healthy children and families, and part of that extension is our nightlife and our entertainment industry. And so I want to now turn it over to my good friend and the new head, David Rosen. David? Thank you. You give him a hand.
Thank you, Mr. Borough President. When I first met the Borough President nearly 2 years ago, one of the things he said that really resonated with me was that when you were confronted with a problem, one way to move towards solving that problem is to change the narrative around your situation. And I think we're starting to do that today. I think our industry, for the most part, has been a little plagued by stories of conflict and confusion and miscommunication within our communities. And today we want to turn that narrative into one of cooperation. Before I elaborate on that, though, I want to introduce the other founding members of our coalition who are here with us today. First, we have Jake Rosenthal. He is the operator of Pop Gun Presents. That's a live music agency, and they're working on a new live music venue. I also have Jamie Wiseman. He is the developer of Output Nightclub. We have Megan Florence, who's the operator of Project Parlor, a bedside-based bar. Vanessa Raimondo, who's the director of operations at Roberta's Pizza. Sarah Ludington, who is the operator of the Van Brunt Stillhouse, and that's a distillery. Bridget Fertile, she's the operator of the Noble Experiment, which is another distillery. Brant Moeller is the operator of Bobby Red Projects, who specializes in event production. And we also have a few professionals with us here today. Joseph Levy of Helbron, Levy and O'Donoghue, a law firm specializing in the hospitality industry, and Elke Hoffman of Elke Hoffman Law, also specializing in the hospitality industry. There are a few folks who are unable to join us today, and I'll list them as well. We have Michael Santora of Crown Architecture and Consulting, an architecture firm specializing in bars and restaurants. Christina Tosi of the Momofuku Milk Bar, and Gabe Barry of Brooklyn Brewery. And as you can see in that list, we have a pretty wide representation of the various disciplines within the bar and restaurant and nightlife industry. And that's why we chose these folks, because our industry is rather diverse. So the challenges that a nightclub face are probably vastly different than what a pizzeria faces, and what a bar is dealing with on a day-to-day basis is a little different than what a distillery deals with. But collectively, we are committed to growing this coalition and doing what's best for our community. In terms of our strategy moving forward, we are going to have a very hyper-local organization whereby we are going to target each community board district, look for leadership from bar and restaurant operators within those districts, and kind of help them form micro groups within their neighborhoods that are focused on serving the needs of their industry within those neighborhoods, while at the same time focusing on developing relationships within their neighborhoods. So if you were to contrast that with the other nightlife and restaurant associations in the city, whereas they are more centrally based and are focused more on big ticket lobbying efforts, we are going to be focused on, again, the hyper-local organizing and really integrating our industry as best we can within the community. And I think when you define the community, there are several aspects to that. There's the immediate neighbors and residents, local nonprofit groups, local community groups, the local police precincts, and of course the local community boards. So we're really looking forward to rolling out this effort, and I think one of the goals today with this conference is to get the word out. So if there's anyone who's interested in joining those efforts, that they can please contact us, and we will do our best to get them on board. We'll take any questions at the end, but now I'd like to introduce Jamie Wiseman to say a few words.
Thanks very much. I wanted to just say thank you to this whole group for bringing this together, especially Dave, who really kind of put this idea together. I think it's important that we come together as a group. We We obviously compete in the same markets, but at the same time, we can come together and as a team figure out how to reach out to communities and have ears for people that are on our side of things, that people complain about given places, and we're there to listen. And I think we're gonna really work hard to kind of be proactive about reaching out to our individual communities. And in addition, our goal is to continue to spur employment and have tens of millions of dollars of investments throughout Brooklyn so that we can meet those goals of pushing up additional tax revenue as well as higher employment.
Thank you.
I'd also like to bring up Jake Rosenthal from Popgun Presents.
Thank you, Dave. I am excited to be here with this great group of folks who are all involved in the hospitality industry. As the Borough President pointed out, the data around the growth of the hospitality industry is pretty staggering, and of course, live music, which is what my company does. We've produced thousands of live music events over the last few years in the Brooklyn area. Of course, live music is a part of that growth, and I think the challenge as we see that growing and spreading throughout all the boroughs in Brooklyn, and live music has become very synonymous with Brooklyn in a lot of ways. The challenge is to integrate into the communities that we're opening up our establishments and making sure that we're listening to their needs. And I know that we're in good company of many event organizers who has that as one of their main priorities, and we're excited to be part of that as well. Thank you.
See any questions? Open up for questions. Okay?
Yeah, any questions? Well, I'll say a few things. First of all, my business is in the North Brooklyn area where I imagine that you're referring to. I actually served myself on the community board at Community Board 1 for 2 years, and I was on the State Liquor Authority committee on Community Board 1, so I'm pretty well aware of the situation that you're talking about. So, with that said, I have a fair amount of experience and understand the nature of that question. In response to how we're going to handle it, a few things. First of all, I don't think that our mission at the moment is to, once a problem is happening on the street, like we're not there to police that issue, and we can't always prevent individual actors who may be walking around doing irresponsible things, whether or not they frequent our establishments, from behaving badly. But with that said, in terms of trying to prevent those situations from developing, I think it's a few things, and ultimately that relies on some degree of education. With respect to that, one is that it's very important for our industry to have strong ties, and again, this is the nature of the hyper-local strategy and organization I was talking about, to have good ties with the local police precincts. We in North Brooklyn right now have very good relationships in Williamsburg and Greenpoint with the 90th and the 94th precincts. It is so good that they call me if they're having a problem with a problem bar and are having a problem communicating and having a problem getting across to that bar the proper behavior. So we've established that type of relationship, and we know that it works, and we are capable of communicating and then going to that bar and explaining where their behavior and where their practices are being developed the wrong way and how we can help solve them. So I think ultimately, if there's some degree of awareness on our side as the operators that we need to be at least somewhat concerned with the impact on the streets of our businesses, that we will do our best to develop practices to prevent that from happening and have the relationships with the local police should something get out of hand and we need their help with the situation.
And I think that's important. Part of the initiative is to be proactive and not reactive. Anytime a new establishment opens, there should be a conversation with the local precinct commander, have a conversation with the community board rep, and really start the dialogue of understanding the role our nightlife industry plays in employment, because there is a holistic approach to bringing Brooklyn in a uniform manner towards success. And part of that is a dialogue. If you see a new restaurant or bar open on your corner, there probably will be some natural apprehension if you are part of the group that don't want an establishment open. But our goal is the outreach. There was a bar, a new owner in Bay Ridge 2 weeks ago. He had a community outreach where he allowed the community to come in, look at the establishment, and learn what they're doing. And so I want to tear down the walls that are preventing well-established, qualified, community-minded businesses that are part of the entertainment industry to communicate with the community at large, and allow people to use their establishment throughout their days. Some of these great establishments have spaces where we can use from our Boy Scout meetings to some of the senior meetings. There are different ways we can be creative to build the bridge between this great industry and the people who live in the community. Thank you. Yes. I'm sorry? You're talking about a non... You want to touch on that?
Well, I think ultimately in terms of the benefits for joining, we're not the type of organization where we're going to have a clear-cut list of benefits like discounts on supplies or insurance or things like that. There are other great organizations that are doing that kind of work right now. I think ultimately the benefit is that if you join the coalition, you're actively contributing towards developing relationships within your community, that will foster a better environment for your business within your community, and that will help avoid some of the long-term effects of having a bad relationship within that community. I can't really say that there's a clear economic or quid pro quo benefit directly for participating, but on some level there is a degree of civic duty, and there is a degree of participating to do the right thing and having faith that if you do that, and if there are other members of the industry within the community who do that, great things can happen. And we've shown that in our experience in North Brooklyn and Community Board 1, and that's why we're here today to expand it throughout Brooklyn.
And there's another benefit that's very important. What I've learned in my year and a half here as Borough President, our business community, you're in business to run your business. And sometimes government gets in the way of that. And by organizing as a body, you learn the challenges of navigating, opening a club, running a club, and what is the method of a community board, the liquor license committee, the precinct. All of those aspects of government can often be foreign to a person who's just merely trying to open their business and look at the bottom line. Government must become more user-friendly for business. And that is my goal. This is the empire state. We should be in the business of building empires, not destroying them. And far too often, government does not understand the challenge of that business owner of trying to keep the lights on and people in his establishment. And by having a coalition of business people in the nightlife industry, we can start the process of ensuring that we have a more educated body of people who are running their establishment. It's the Sims model. An educated consumer is going to be our best customer and our best business person. We had a meeting the other day with many of our utility companies, Con Edison and Keyspan and others, so that they can hear from our business people what is in the way of actually getting their business up and running, because too many policymakers have never ran a business, so they don't understand that from time to time government get in the way of business. And David's job utilizing Borough Hall is to make sure that we can alleviate some of those barriers, if not eradicate what is holding businesses from opening. And that's the goal. The benefit is being organized. Squeaky wheel gets the most attention, and David is going to make sure that squeaky wheel rolls down all the blocks where we have our entertainment community. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. You want to get a good shot so we can tweet it out?
Good question. Well, some of us.